So it says here in the book, often this work is done at a subconscious or superconscious level. Thus, you may not be consciously aware of it. The gift of wisdom makes it possible for you to be consciously aware, to emerge from the cloud of unknowing, to move with clarity through the contextual field that is life around you, and to invoke the energy of attraction within the contextual field, focusing consistently on exactly what it is you now choose, and recognizing all contrary conditions as your creation, producing opportunity and not opposition. Now, in that connection, you should know, I'm sure you do know, that you cannot impose your will on somebody else. So if it's my will that you hire me at $50,000 an hour, I can will that all I want. If you and I do not share in the same will, my will cannot be done. So the one thing you cannot do is create unilaterally some kind of experience or reaction in or through another. That is, I can't control your life because I want Pam to give me the job of a lifetime. She will hire me next week as her personal assistant. I'll come and live in her home. I'll stay with her. I'll make her meals. I'll clean her house. I may even be there after dark. Who knows? I can't cause Pam to do something that Pam herself does not want to do, because creation will not allow you to stand in the way of creation itself. And creation is a collaborative endeavor. So if you think you can get a little, what do you call it, voodoo doll, you know, and ha ha ha, you will hire me, or I give you a stab in the heart. You can't do that. That's it. Yes, my dear.
Two people to come to healing or resolution or anything.
That's why the Bible says, wherever two or more are gathered. You cannot create alone if your creation involves another sentient being. You must create collaboratively. That's why collective consciousness is so incredibly important. Collective consciousness. Very, very, very important. If we can raise the consciousness of humanity collectively, oh my gosh, what we could do on the earth. Oh, you can't even begin to imagine the realities we could create on the earth if we could simply create a collective consciousness that would support that. So the gift of wisdom, if you please, the wonderful gift of wisdom is one of the principles of life that we invoke when the law of opposites seems to tell us that one thing is true rather than another. And we invite you to use the gift of wisdom and to invoke it to bring you to clarity as to what's really going on here in this time of your life. By the way, all masters who we know of, I mean the widely known masters, the Christs, the Buddhas, and so forth, they use this exact procedure I'm telling you here. There was at no time that Jesus, for instance, thought of himself as the victim of his circumstance, even though the circumstances were not really attractive to most human beings. But during that time, he fell into his true self, embraced the gift of wisdom, and allowed himself to notice what was really true. Even though there were two times in his human experience when he was not real sure. One, as you know, was in the Garden of Gethsemane, and the other was on the cross when he said, my God, why hast thou forsaken me?" So each of us has our moments when we, even the great masters and the great spiritual teachers and even that one who is called the Son of God. We are all, of course, sons and daughters of God. But even Jesus. And thank goodness for the scriptures quoting that so accurately. That is, they could have left that out, but they kept that in. I don't know whether you saw the story all over today's newspapers about Mother Teresa. But Time magazine is running a huge story now about Mother Teresa because it turns out some letters that she wrote to her superiors and to her confessors through the years have been unveiled and put in a book. And in those letters, Mother Teresa makes it clear that from the time she was a a young lady, a nun of 36 years old, starting out in the streets of Calcutta, healing and and caring for the indigent and the poor children and so forth. From the time that she started her work until the day of her death, she was fighting an internal struggle of faith that's hard to believe. And her letters talk of, I don't believe that God, some days I don't believe that God exists, and I don't think that there is a God. If there isn't a God, why is my life so black? And this and that and that. And the last kinds of things you'd expect to hear from Mother Teresa. Her public image was one of constantly being in touch with her awareness of God in her life. And only in her private letters to her confessors and her superiors did she admit and acknowledge her deep, deep questioning and even loss of faith. And some of those letters indicate that she doesn't even believe that God exists. And the revealing of these letters, which she asked to be destroyed after her death, and the church chose not to. The church violated her own death wish. And the church has released these letters. But I believe that the church knew what it was doing, and I think that the spirit of Teresa is happy now that they've been released, because they show the world that even a person as saintly as Mother Teresa has deep, deep, deep doubts. See, they asked me on the Today Show a few years ago, Matt Lauer said, do you have any doubt that you spoke directly to God? And I said to Matt, Matt, of course I do. I have doubts about that every day. And the day that I stop doubting is the day that I become dangerous. And I have no intention of becoming dangerous. So, of course I doubt. After using the gift of wisdom to see what is opposing you, which is nothing, and what is inviting you, which is everything, you may then apply the joy of wonder. I'm moving through this quickly. There's a whole chapter behind each of these.